Hey, welcome to chapter 16. Lovementalism is the title, and you've made it to the last chapter, the last episode, the last segment of our Loving Out Loud, Learning to Love in a Hate-Filled World video series. So I'm glad you're here. Again, the title of this episode is Lovementalism, Flip the Script. So let's jump in and see what we can do with this. Our theme scriptures for this particular week, there's several of them, plus a quote. Got a quote in here too. One that you've seen before if you've followed this series much. So the first scripture is from Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 and 2. It says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." Pretty straightforward. Don't judge. Romans chapter 14, verse 4. "Who are you to judge someone else's servant? To their own master servants stand or fall, and they will stand, for the Lord is able to make them stand." Now, this isn't talking so much about earthly servants as much as it's talking about followers of Christ who just see things a little bit differently. And we do have a tendency to judge one another pretty harshly sometimes. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10 says, "For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each of us may receive what is due us for the good things." Oops, I messed that up. Let me start again with that. "For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each of us may receive what is due us for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad." Sorry about that. I normally wear glasses, so you probably have seen one of the episodes and maybe the introduction where I'm wearing glasses. So I decided to try to wear my contacts for these episodes so that I wouldn't have that reflective glare on the glass. But I don't see quite as well out of the contacts. So if I stumble a little bit here and there, that's probably why. Okay, Colossians chapter 3, verse 14 says, "And over all these virtues," there's a list of them. So you go back to Colossians 3 and look at those virtues. "Over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity." Love is the glue that makes them stick. And then, of course, 1 Corinthians 13, verse 8, "Love never fails." And then my favorite quote from my buddy John Wright, "That means it works every time it's tried." Maybe we should keep trying, because that's what grace is for. If you read this book or you follow these episodes, you will find that I'm pretty straightforward about my own faults. I hope you get a kick out of that little picture there of me and my broken fashion sense. But in the book, I'm pretty straightforward on the ways that I have messed up and the ways that I fail to love. On the other hand, I write pretty glowingly of a number of other people who really are kind of my heroes because of the way they did love me. And the fact is that I'm not really as bad off as I portray myself in the book. At least I hope not. And those people that I am so fond of, who've set such a good example for me, they're not perfect. We all have our faults. We're all damaged by life. Sometimes it's our choices. Sometimes it's the choices of other people that impact us. But we all are imperfect. We're imperfect creatures that are actually tasked by God with learning to love the way He does. And He knows that we're not going to make it. We're not going to get there. We're not going to love perfectly. And that's what grace is for. So just keep that in mind as we dig on into this episode. All right, time for our first story. I don't know. I can't remember. I asked my wife yesterday, I think, how long ago it was we took this trip. But at some point in time in the past, my wife and my two daughters and I We rode the megabus to Chicago, from Indianapolis to Chicago. Now, we could have driven it. It's about 3.5 hours to downtown Chicago, but we decided to ride the bus. We thought it might be interesting and fun, and we wouldn't have to worry about parking. And the megabus is this bus system that picks you up on the side of the road in one town and takes you to the other town in a double-decker bus and drops you off on the side of the road in the other town. Relatively inexpensively. It's low fares, very reasonable fares. So we went to downtown Indianapolis and we were standing on the curb waiting for the megabus. And when it arrived, we loaded our luggage in the luggage hold, and then we crawled into the bus. And our bus driver was a young African American woman. And I got to be honest, and this is going to make you cringe, makes me cringe talking about it. But the truth of the matter was, when I saw this young African American woman driving the bus, and I knew she was going to have to drive us into the congested and crazy Chicago metro traffic, I was nervous. I got nervous. I put mine and my family's life in her hands anyway and went on, but I was nervous. I wonder why. Well, we'll talk about that more in a few minutes. Now, while we were in Chicago, we did a lot of stuff. We stayed in a Hilton hotel and we ate a lot of different kinds of food, and we walked around and saw sights, and we did some shopping and we did some touring, and Nancy caught a cold. So we were there and she's all flushed and stuffy and just feeling not so good, but she was a trooper. She didn't want to spoil the trip for us, so she hung in there. She hung with us, and she was really doing pretty well. But it was pretty obvious when you look at her face that she wasn't feeling great because of her flushed and puffy and watery eyes and the whole deal. So the last evening there, we decided to get some Chicago style pizza, and there was a Giordano's down the road about a mile, and so we all walked down to Giordano's. The thing about Giordano's this particular evening is it was busy. There was a wait, so we had to get one of those little buzzer things and go outside and stand outside and wait until our buzzer buzzed, and then we could have our table. As we're standing there, there's dozens of other people around, all carrying their little personal buzzers, and I look across the way and I see a homeless woman working her way through the crowd. And she's going from this group to that group to this group to that group, and I'm sure that what she was doing was she was panhandling. She was asking for money. It's not uncommon in downtown Chicago to see homeless people asking for money, and typically I pull whatever's in my pocket out and I give. I do that really as much for myself as I do for them because it keeps my heart softer. But that's not the point of this particular episode. At any rate, she's walking towards us, working her way towards us, and I'm judging her up one side and down the other. She's homeless. She's dirty. Her clothes are scruffy. She looks really like she's lived a really rough life. And I'm like, oh boy, here she comes. I hope she's not on drugs. I hope she's not crazy. I'm kind of hoping it's just that she wants a little bit of money. I don't know. I'm nervous about it. And so I'm judging her up one side and down the other. And she finally makes it to us and flipped the script. Instead of asking us for money, she took one look at my wife's flushed face with her red eyes and her red cheek and her watery eyes, and she looked at my wife and she said, "Is he harming you?" And then she turned to me, "You better not be hitting that lady." And of course, both of us, both Nancy and I, let her know that no, Nancy is just she's not feeling great. She has a cold and she's just not feeling good. But that woman wasn't sure. She didn't trust me. She's like, "Are you sure he's not hurting you?" She said to Nancy. And she turned to me, "You better treat her right." I don't think she ever asked us for any money. She flipped the script on me. Here I was judging her like crazy, and then she turns around and misjudges me. So, interesting situation there. Um, she misjudged me. She judged me, but it was a misjudgment, maybe as much as mine may have been a misjudgment of hers. But she did it out of concern for my wife. Now, that concern may boil up out of maybe experiences she's had in her own life. Maybe that's why she mistrusted me so much. But regardless, she was judging me based out of concern for my wife. I was judging her out of my own prejudice and fear. And you see, we judge people, we judge others all the time. We judge people based on their skin color. We judge them based on their hair length. Is it too long? Is it too short? We judge people on whether or not they have tattoos. And by the way, I don't have any tattoos, but frankly, I love the artwork. So I like a really cool tattoo on somebody else. But we judge people on their clothing. Is that neckline too short, too low? Is the pants are they ironed? Are they out of date? Are they cheap Walmart clothes, or are they designer stuff from Macy's? Who knows? We judge people all the time. We judge them on their jobs. We judge them on their gender. We judge them on their race. We judge them on their religion. We judge them on all sorts of topics. I judged that megabus driver. I got on the bus and I was nervous. But was my concern because she was black? Or was I concerned because she was young? Or was I concerned because she was a woman? Or was it all three? Or some combination thereof? I don't know. I'm ashamed of it. I know that. And I also know that my fear was completely unfounded, because she did a stellar job driving us into that traffic in Chicago, much better than I would have done. It's like, obviously it's her job, so she's done it. It wasn't her first rodeo, and I really judged her for no good reason. And I bet that you have probably done something like that. We judge people, like I say, all the time. You're in traffic and somebody cuts you off and you say, "You idiot." You just judged them. You judged them an idiot. Someone's at church. Maybe a man confesses some sin. Maybe it's a sexual sin. And all of a sudden, people begin to avoid him, especially the women. Maybe I can't trust this guy. Or maybe a woman confesses that she this or that. And all of a sudden, the words begin to flow. The gossip begins to fly. We begin to judge one another constantly. Let me just say, judgmentalism, and I'm going to use that word, judgmentalism is the propensity that we have to be judgmental, or to prejudge people based on unfounded reasons. We just tend to judge. So judgmentalism sucks the life out of our relationships, kind of like a spiritual vampire. Think about that. Judgmentalism sucks the life out of our relationships like a spiritual vampire, and we need to stake it. We need to stake it in the heart. On the other hand, I'm going to introduce you now to something called Lovementalism. Here's a verse from Matthew chapter 12, 43 to 45. This is Jesus speaking. When an impure spirit comes out of a person, it goes through arid places, seeking rest, and does not find it. Then it says, "I'll return to the house I left." When it arrives, it finds the house unoccupied, swept clean, and put in order. Then it goes and takes with it 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go in and live there. And the final condition of that person is worse than the first. That's how it will be with this wicked generation. Matthew 12, 43 to 45. I kind of consider judging, or judgmentalism, to be kind of one of those evil spirits. We kick it out of our life and we clean everything up. But if we don't put something in its place, it's going to come back. We can't kick that spirit of judging out and expect it not to return. We have to replace it. And I think that we need to replace it with something called, or that I call, Lovementalism. Yes, I coined that word. I made it up a few years ago, but I think it says what I want you to pick up on. Lovementalism is a predisposition to love people regardless of who they are, where they're from, or what they're like. It's the embodiment of the biblical concept of agape love. And I think this is important because God loves the people he's made. All of them. From that scruffy, dirty homeless person, to the chain-smoking bar hopper, to the self-righteous Bible thumper, to the zealot that's marching on the State House, to that couple down the road that continue to fight one another, to the drug addict who steals from his grandmother. God loves all of those people. And it's up to us to learn to approach those folks from a direction of love rather than a direction of judging. Lovementalism replacing judgmentalism. In John chapter 1, verse 5, it says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. God's love, I think, is what overcomes the darkness, because love never fails. That light from God is that light of his love, and it overcomes the darkness, because love never fails. Works every time it's tried. So my question for you is, are you ready to give Lovementalism a try? Flip the script, stop judging, and start loving. That's the base message of this series. Now for your discussion questions, your last set of discussion questions. Again, pause it in between, talk about it, think about it, consider it. If people judged you in your worst moments, what would they say? Have you ever been misjudged? Share about it. Number 3, describe the little ways that you tend to judge others. Next one, which is easier, to love people or to judge people? What do you think that is? And how does love shine into the darkness? And then lastly, create a definition for Lovementalism. What does it mean to you? And for your challenge, the Lovementalism challenge. Now, the simple challenge on the video is be mindful of your tendency to judge. Intentionally choose to love instead. So be mindful of your tendency to judge and intentionally choose, make a choice, intentionally choose to love instead. Now I'll tell you, the book and the workbook actually has a much broader Lovementalism challenge. It is more than one page and is designed to help you embed the principles from this video series and from the book into your life. It covers, the Lovementalism challenge covers, there's a different challenge for each day of the week, and then it goes on for several weeks. And this way you create new habits. You create a new way of looking at other people from a Lovementalism point of view instead of a judging or judgmentalism point of view. So that's in the book version. So if you want that, you're going to have to pick up one of the books or the workbook in order to pick up that challenge. I highly recommend it. I think it'll make a difference in your life. But for this challenge, just be mindful of your tendency to judge. Now, I want to thank you for being part of this video study series. It's been a joy for me. It's been several weeks. I think I've done 17 total videos now. There was one introduction and 16 episodes, 17 of them So 17 different weeks I've put together presentations and videos, and I hope they have meant something to you. If this is your first one, I suggest you go back and catch the others. If you've made it through all of them and hey, this is chapter 16 for you, thank you so much for doing it. Share about it. Put it on your social media. Tell your pastor about it, your minister, your group leader, your elders, however your particular faith family is structured. Share about this video series, particularly if it made a difference in your life. So again, thank you very much. And remember, love one another.